Hey, what's going on, roleplayers? It's the Bard here, and I'm finally bringing you a Bard video. So today we're going to be discussing lore and valor. So the Bard gets full spell progression, the Bard gets very respectable HP total, and the Bard also gets some really strong abilities that you can use throughout the game. It's just a shame that people look at the Bard and think it's going to be doing very specific things because of their own preconceptions about what they think the Bard is. So it might be time to dispel some of those myths. So I'll give Wizards of the Coast their dues here. Wizards' example of a Bard was a warrior beating his sword against his armor, setting the tempo for the war chant, and inspiring his companions into bravery and heroism. I really loved that, and I thought that it was just a great way to dispel the idea that Bards will always sit back, they'll always be the social, they'll always be the fop, and they'll always be the person to kind of jump in and smooth talk their way out of everything. I really love the way they turned the concept on its head, and you could do that with your own characters as well. So if you had a Valor Bard, you could be like the general leading his army. So you could be motivating your troops, and you could be giving them inspiration, and you could be shouting out tactics, and like they say, beating the war drum or playing the war instrument. I really like that. The Lore Bard also has tons of potential, and the Lore Bard makes an amazing villain. In fact, it makes such a good villain that, think about it, in every single film you've ever seen where it's protagonist versus antagonist and they're in a final duel at the end and they're doing battle, the antagonist always comes out with, "You'll never defeat me, my plan is in motion, I'll destroy you all," and all that kind of stuff. It's a perfect example of like cutting words. He is demoralizing and debilitating his opponent. In fact, it's perfect for so many characters, but the Lore Bard has an ability that actually makes that happen. The villain throws out his cutting words, tries to bring the hero down with talk and manipulation before attempting to go in for the final blow, and it's really great. Bard would make an amazing villain character. You could have those cinematic narrative moments, and the villain's taunts will actually have an effect on your party. Brilliant. I love rock and roll. Sorry, I won't do that again. But you know what they say, when in Rome, do as the Romans do. Alright, let's get into this and start discussing the Bard's abilities. Bards pretty much get the best of both worlds when it comes to getting skills and spells. You know, you get the best parts of being a rogue and the best parts of being a wizard. But on top of their bardic inspiration and their spell casting, you know, they also have some really good stuff like their Jack of all trades ability, getting half of their proficiency bonus rounded down to any ability check. That, you know, that's really good. Your Song of Rest is great for getting people back into the fray again, and your bardic colleges have some very nice abilities in them as well. You know what I really love is the expertise, being able to double your proficiency on any 2 of your skills, and then when you get to level 10, you get to do it again. So you get 4 skills at double proficiency, and I love skills. Skills I think really make a game. So if the skills are done well, then you get a lot out of your character. So I would suggest playing Bard if you like being the team player, because the way the Bardic Inspiration works is its attack rolls, its saving throws, its ability checks, and then it is also modified based on what college you are a part of. So if you're Valor, I think it's increased damage and increased armor, whereas if you're Lore, it's cutting words, which is attack rolls, ability checks, and damage roll reduction. And both of these are very strong. So Valor Bards get the combat inspiration, you know, the increased damage and the increased armor. This is brilliant if you have a very fighter heavy or very melee combat centric group that you're a part of. Along with these combat inspirations, it might be in your best interest to focus on spells that really buff or improve the combat capabilities of the party. I mean, a Valor Bard can really turn his adventuring group into absolute combat monsters. They can literally just carve through anything in their path. So, you know, things like heroism are a great choice. But a lot of these personal buffs are very few and far between in the Bard list. It's unusual, but yes, if you do look, they're not as prevalent as you would want them to be. And that being said and all, you can still get some very good spells for, like Whole Person. As I've said before, Whole Person is one like my new best friend. It's the kind of spell that you just drop it on, and if it hits, it's pretty much game over for that creature, because everything's going to be critical against it. And what's really nice about the Valor Bard is once you've put your inspiration up, you can confirm the hit before you actually spend your inspiration. So you're going to always get double inspiration dice damage from that. It's definitely worth looking into. You also want to seriously consider how you want to spend your magical secrets. Spells like Haste and Swift Quiver can really help a party to rack up an enormous amount of damage. Even though Swift Quiver is already on the Archer list for the Ranger, they only get it at level 17, whereas you could give it to them at level 10. This would allow them to keep something like the Hunter's Mark up. So then they're getting all their normal attacks, then they get their bonus Swift Quiver attacks. All of those are going to be Hunter's Mark enhanced as well, and you can chuck your combat inspiration on them for a good measure. As a level 5 spell, you're entitled to it at level 10. It wouldn't normally be available until level 17 for a Ranger, and it just makes things so enormously powerful. If, on the other hand, you're looking to play a Lore Bard, then you've got a lot of options on the table, especially because they're very caster-centric. Something you might find quite useful is to just try and play up the abilities you have, because bards tend to have a lot of demoralizing and debilitation abilities, and so the Lore Bard is probably more of a natural choice because its spells synergize well with its cutting words. There's a very good combination that I use, and it's Bane, which is a level 1 spell. Now Bane's very good because it scales very well. You get to attack 3 creatures with it from level 1. So Bane is a charisma-based saving throw, so instantly it's going to be the bane of any creature that's basically melee combat. So, the classic ogres, orcs, that kind of thing, they're going to have pretty poor charisma saves. So you can instantly get a good amount of mileage out of it on that alone. It knocks off 1d4 from all attack rolls and saving throws. This is, oh my god, it's not broken, but it's on its way to being broken. When you consider the fact that your proficiency ranges from 2 to 6 throughout your entire adventuring career, you're going to essentially lose a good majority of that on a reasonable roll of a d4. I mean, Bane scales very well as well. For every level after the first, you get to affect an additional target, which means you only need to go as high in spell slots as you have targets you want to affect. So it's pretty good on that alone. You don't have to always go for the maximum amount of spell slot usage. You only go for as many as you need to have additional targets. So it's great for that. But once Bane gets going and it's already on a creature, it starts to take those penalties to saving throws, which is absolutely ridiculously good, because what you're going to be doing then is you're going to be hitting them with your cutting words, and you're going to be hitting them with your Vicious Mockery. Vicious Mockery is a wisdom-based saving throw, so again, it's tailor-made for taking out melee combatants. Once you cast it, they have to save versus it, and if they fail, they're going to take a little bit of damage, but that isn't the prize. The real prize is the disadvantage on their next attack roll, and that's really what stops creatures from, dealing any damage to you. But because you've already got Bane up, then as soon as they go to make their roll, they have to roll a d4 and then minus that off their saving throw. So the chances of you affecting them with Vicious Mockery is that much higher. If you're absolutely desperate and you want to make sure that they don't hit you, chuck on Vicious Mockery as well. Another d6 roll at low level, and then that's going to take out pretty much all of their capacity to hit their target. I cannot tell you how many creatures I have personally stopped hitting the party with that triple combination. It's unbelievable. As you advance in levels, things like fear and confusion become really good choices, because you're trying to be the debilitator, you're trying to be the debuffer, you're trying to lock down the battle to make it that much easier for your party. So spells like that really, they make or break an encounter. Fear is an amazing spell because it just prevents anything from coming towards you. Confusion I like Confusion because it's very random. I love throwing caution to the wind, so Confusion's a lot of fun as well. I always like to think the bard has an answer for getting out of practically any situation. So, I mean, when you consider things like enhanced ability and its advantage on ability checks, combined with the bard's bardic inspiration and its bonus to ability checks, you're not going to be failing anything, really. It's also a nice little switch up from the bard always being the one doing the talking. If you have, say, like a warlock who's quite charisma heavy, if you have a rogue, because again they can be charisma heavy sometimes, or a paladin, the bard can really help them in their role as much as trying to overshadow their role. So rather than try to do the talking for the group or talk alongside the group, you can just use your abilities to improve the chances of the party's main spokesperson. A bard could really help the party put their point across, even if you haven't got someone who's particularly loquacious. So what you could then do is say, look, you've got the fighter wants to do a bit of talking because he's got an idea, but he just hasn't got the charisma behind him to say it. But with the bard's backup and a few choice abilities going his way, he could probably turn the tables. So it's definitely worth using your abilities to enhance the party. Since the bard's got some really good spells, some very good abilities, strong skills, and very good fighting capacity, it's a good all-round character that allows you to then take on the role of someone else in the party. By doing that, you can then allow that other player to explore their character more fully. You could take the Aura of Vitality when you get access to your magical secrets. Now, this is a very strong healing spell, normally only available to high-level paladins, but again, you get to take any spell off any list, so it's a really good pick. And because you're able to then knock out a hell of a lot of healing, your cleric can then start experimenting with their spell list, so they can start using spells they wouldn't normally have the chance to because they're always stuck on healing duty. Likewise, it's always good to have an extra healer in backup anyway, because if your main healer goes down, then you're pretty much stuck. So, considering taking a powerful healing spell, especially at early levels if you're a lore bard, that's going to really enhance your combat capability overall. Speaking of combat capability, if your fighter is a melee weapon fighter, you could consider going archery, and vice versa. If the main fighter is an archer, then you've got a lot of proficiency when it comes to finesse weapons. So there's always going to be pretty much every base covered, and the bard does it so well because, like I said, he can fight, he's got skills, he's got spells. Bard really is a character that if you're going to have a fifth in your group, you pretty much can't do without them. There's really no better pick because it doesn't matter what role you take, it's going to be useful. Okay, my wandering minstrels, I'm going to end the video here. You've got a pretty good overview of what the bard can do now, and if you want more bardic information, then by all means feel free to tell me. I would quite happily go into a far more detailed video on each of the colleges, or potential tactics or social interactions, or whatever it is that really captures your imagination. So if that's something you would like, be sure to comment and let me know. If you did like the video, by all means, please consider giving it a like. And if you're new to the channel and you like what I'm doing, there's a subscribe button there that's just begging to be clicked. Also, if there's a specific character, class, or archetype that you want covered, again, feel free to just leave a comment. I do read them, and I get some great ideas from your comments, and I really enjoy interacting with the community. And that being said, I will see you guys next time at the gaming table.